Hello and welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. We're delighted to be joined by Mr. PZ7 himself, Philip Zinckernagel. Philip, thank you so much for coming on today, mate. First off, how are you doing? You're good?
Thank you. Well, I'm very good. It's a pleasure to be here. Quite funny to see what you guys are doing. So,
nice. Can we refer to you as PZ7?
Yeah.
Like, just as, yeah, thank you.
Do you like the nickname, Philip?
Yeah,
Do you like it?
That's sick. That's cool.
Nice. Well, actually, funny enough, mate, if we were doing it in person, I would show you this, but I've already got your name on the back.
Aww.
What do you think of the shirt?
That's nice.
Do you like it?
Yeah, love it.
Top man. I'll tell you what, mate, we'll get straight into it. So the format of the videos is we're trying to get to know you a little bit better as Watford fans. Obviously, you joined in January. Mm-hmm. But I think the best place to start is how are you finding life at Watford at the moment?
Well, at the moment, it's very nice. 2 games, 2 victories. Yeah, I love it here. London is perfect, so it's pretty good so far. Kind of waited a little bit long for my chance to play, but yeah, now I played twice and from start, and it feels good. Nice.
You mentioned about living in London. What's it about London you really like? Because obviously you kind of grew up in Copenhagen, didn't you? Then you moved to Norway. Yeah. Now you're in London. What's it about London that you like?
Haven't really been out and about so much because of COVID, of course. But I live with my girlfriend now in Hampstead, and it's beautiful. It's very nice. It reminds me a little bit of the area that I grew up in Copenhagen. So that's pretty cool.
Have you been to the Heath yet in Hampstead? Just like the massive park and the field, really nice there. Nice. There's a really nice there's a nice like lake down there. Just take the dogs occasionally. So yeah, it's really good down there. Really nice area.
Really cool. We see a lot of dogs and a lot of people. So I guess now with COVID, it's a bit overcrowded. So we try to find our moments a bit careful because there's a lot of people. But it's very nice and we love it. So maybe when we get a dog someday, we'll go there a bit more.
I was going to say, Philip, obviously you moved in January from Bodø and Glimt. There obviously had a lot of interest elsewhere, and we were absolutely delighted to pick you up. Who has helped you settle into Watford? Has there been any particular players that have kind of made you feel at home already?
All of the players are really cool. I think Will Ekong has been very nice. He's a fantastic guy, and it's a bit different now because of COVID. Everyone drives home and goes to the families. It's not like you're just gonna go out for dinner or like normal stuff you would maybe do if you would come to a new club and go out for a good night or whatever. So it's been a bit different than normal, but for sure Will and obviously Sema, because we speak more or less the same language. We've spoken a bit, but in general, all the guys are very nice.
Nice, because I remember reading an interview. Actually, I think it was a local news outlet, and you were at the hotel just the day before it was going to be announced that you were joining Watford on the 1st of January. And I think you mentioned in that interview about the shock when you saw the facilities at the training ground. Was that something that surprised you from Bodø and Glimt to coming to Watford?
Yeah, for sure. Like the facilities are great, but especially the physiotherapist part. Like we have, 15 physios, and it's just different. It's a big staff, and there's a lot of people. So from the physios to the dining area where we eat lunch every day is quite different. It's like a hotel almost. So.
That's what we love to hear. We love to hear that.
Elliot, I wanted to bring you in now, mate, because we mentioned Bodø and Glimt with Philip Zinckernagel, and Philip, you registered some incredible stats on you over there. I think we've got a little graphic here to show you. Have a look at that, mate. Some good company, eh?
Yeah, not bad.
It was just before you joined Watford, when the rumours were coming in. I wrote an article just about you, trying to find out more about your time at Bodø Glimt, and I was blown away by the statistics and by Bodø Glimt season, because I'd heard a little bit about what you were doing over in Norway, but when I actually looked at the stats, it was crazy. And you mentioned it in your press conference the other day. What was it like to play in a team that just pretty much won everything and beat absolutely everyone every week?
It was fantastic, of course. it was also kind of special season. It's not often that this happened, and especially not for a club like Bodø that have never won any championship. It was amazing. It was like you wouldn't really believe it until the end, because it was like everything just went our way, and as you said, we scored 3, 4, 5 goals in every game, and scored over 100 goals and broken so many records. So it's a bit crazy actually, but like I wish I had the chance to enjoy it a bit more, because the season was quite short because of COVID, so everything was postponed, and like every third day we would play, and then suddenly it was just over, and we absolutely killed it. But,
did you feel sorry for the opposition, Philip?
Not really, in Norway you have a few big teams like Rosenborg and Molde. That's normally Rosenborg has been dominating for many years, and just to be a small club like Bodø and just like win the title by like almost 20 points down to third place Rosenborg is unbelievable. So we didn't really look back at any time. We just like kept going, and it was just special. You
got to play at the San Siro, is that correct, against Milan in the Europa League qualifier? I mean, was that kind of like the highlight of your career so far in that game, playing at the San Siro, or?
Yeah, I mean, very nice experience, and of course an amazing stadium. It's a legendary place, but I would say that because we didn't go through and it was only one game, I would say that the season itself would be my highlight of my career, not that specific game. But it was, of course, a very nice experience and funny to try. But in the end, we were a bit unlucky. We had a huge chance in the last minute that could have equalized it, and I think with extra time we might have won the game, because we were in a part of the season where we were physically very good, and Milan were in the beginning of the season, so they looked very tired, and I think we could have overrun them in the end, if you know what I mean.
I just have to ask as well then, simply because of how good last season was, and then coming to England, how come? I mean, it's taken you so long to kind of break into the Watford side. Was it difficult to kind of adapt to the English game and the Championship, or was it just kind of a process of just easing you in, if you know what I mean?
I think it was more of a process of easing me in. I think I could have played a bit earlier, but at the same time, it's very different football here, and it's much more physical, and it's much more about second balls and duels. And in Bodø, we were used to having the ball 70% of the time in a game, and it wasn't a lot of defending for me as a player, and for the other front players. So it's a big step and totally different kind of football. So, and it's also very difficult to come in the last minutes, and especially when we play away in Blackburn or play away in Millwall, and then you have to come in and you have to defend a lead, or it's just different. So
yeah.
And at the same time, the team was winning, and you know how it is.
Just on top of that as well, then I think I heard in an interview, if I'm correct, that you saw kind of a sports how do I say sport therapist or someone to help you kind of with mentally within the game. Is that something you still kind of look into, or has it kind of helped you with the introduction into England?
I have we call it like a mental coach. So it's right. Basically a coach that helped me with the mental side of the game, and I've worked with him for a few years, and I still work with him now. And of course he's been helping me in this period, but for me it's been more about being patient. Actually, I feel like, because I felt after that United game that I could adapt to the level quite easily, but it's sometimes it's also in the manager's mind that it's a process and you have to take it easy. And I also played 30 games in a short period, so it was also a bit about not going too fast and break me physically down. So it was like a mix of everything, to be fair.
Yeah, Philip, I wanted to ask you, actually, just going back to Bodø and Glimt. You, as I mentioned earlier on, you had a lot of interest from what we were reading. What was it about Watfords that made you want to come to England? Obviously, there's the prospect of playing in the Premier League, but what was it specifically about Watford that kind of attracted you to the club?
As you say, the chance of playing Premier League was one of the main reasons. And when I looked at the table, I thought Watford is for sure the biggest club in Championship at the moment, and with a fantastic squad. And I heard a lot of good things about the club. So it wasn't actually, I didn't thought so much about it. And at the same time, because of Brexit and the new rules about England, it was kind of the last chance to come to England. So I had to choose a little bit, like either choosing England now or wait and then be patient for maybe better offers or whatever. But I think if I hadn't chosen Watford and England, I would probably never come to England because of the new Brexit rules that makes it very difficult to come into England. But yeah, it's also it's in London. There's a lot of positive things about Watford. So yeah.
Nice. What are maybe the big differences just from the two clubs? Obviously, you mentioned Bodø are kind of quite a small club, kind of punching above their weight, I guess, in terms of winning the league. What's the big differences already? You mentioned the facilities. Is there anything in particular that's kind of surprised you about moving to England and moving to Watford that kind of caught you off guard a little bit?
I would say probably the amount of people in the staff and around, and the physical part of the game. I think is the biggest difference. It's you can feel it's completely different here because the pressure and it's like it's not just 3 points you play every weekend. Like in Bodø, okay, we would win or we would lose, but obviously last season we won everything. But like before, it's more about how can we develop every day and become better and better. And it's just different here because here it's more about results and you have to win every game. So there's just more on stake. You just feel there's a bigger pressure and it's just more to it than just 3 points, if you know what I mean.
I know you haven't played in front of the Watford fans yet, which must be quite frustrating, but can you kind of feel the fans at the same time, if you know what I mean? Like with every victory, you can kind of feel like you're making the supporters happy, or vice versa when we kind of lose, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I try not to read too much on Twitter and stuff like that. But I can feel there's a big interest for the club and for the players. But I really wish they will come back soon so I can get to feel them in the stadium. And football without fans is just not the same. So you definitely feel that there's a lot of support, but I would love to actually feel them in the stadium soon. But yeah.
Nice. I was going to say, Philip, just on that, you mentioned William Troost-Ekong. You get along with him, Ken Sema. Is there any other particular players in the dressing room that you've already made mates with, or you got a good relationship with, apart from those two guys?
Well, there's a lot of funny guys, and Isaac is a funny guy.
It's the dancing, isn't it?
Yeah, he's just a beast, But at the moment, we actually get dressed 3-3 because of COVID, so we don't really share the big dressing room at the moment. So that's a pity, but hopefully soon we'll be back, and then I will probably get to know the players even better.
I've noticed on your Instagram, like fashion is a big part of your life. Is it a big passion of yours off the pitch?
Yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah.
I've always grown up with fashion, and I've always liked it, and I guess it's one of my passions outside of football. Is
there any players at the club who are best dressed, worst dressed? You're allowed to say it on here, mate. Don't worry.
A lot of the guys wear tracksuits almost every day. It's a bit. There's a bit of a lazy kind of a feeling to it, It's like, I understand it's a bit different because of COVID. You don't do anything else than go home at the moment, so obviously you don't need to dress up very nice. But I like not always to wear a tracksuit and jogging pants, but. So I'm waiting to when things open up and we can go out and eat and do stuff. I would love to see how people actually dress up.
Are you excited to try British food on that? Like, go out for a fish and chips or
fish and chips. I love actually. In Bodø, where I played before, is like a small city close to the sea. So we would there's a lot of fish in that area, and we would actually often have fish and chips there because it's fish is one of the main imports and business in Bodø. So I actually love fish and chips. It's very nice.
Nice. Yeah, we'll have to take, as I said, we'll have to take you for a tour around Watford at some point. I just wanted to maybe go back to your upbringing, Philip. You were born in Copenhagen. What was it like? Because you were at a number of clubs before you made the move to Bodø and then obviously Watford as well. How did you find life growing up in Denmark, and what was it like for you at that point?
Life was pretty good. I would say that in Denmark and Norway and Sweden, it's quite similar. In Scandinavia, it's. I think most people would find it very, very easy and a good life. There's a good system to it, and football there is quite okay. I grew up and played in Copenhagen as a kid. Then I went to FC Nordsjælland, one of the better academies, and then were there for a few years before I started playing senior games. But it was quite nice. I can't complain about my.
Yeah. Was there any particular? I mean, in English football, I think we'll come to Elliot for some international chat and potentially some aspirations to play for Denmark. But are there any? I think obviously we had Peter Schmeichel, Kasper Schmeichel, Christensen. I mean, there's so many players Danish players that have come over to England. Were you inspired by them, and who were your maybe footballing heroes when you were growing up in Denmark?
I was a huge United fan as a kid.
Really?
You mentioned Ronaldo, didn't you? In an interview growing up watching him.
I had a period like any other kid in my age at that time with Beckham first. Huge fan of Beckham, and then later on it was Ronaldo. So obviously I had all the same haircuts as those two guys. But at that time there weren't really a lot of Danish players in Premier League. I think I was most inspired by players like Beckham and Ronaldo. But obviously Christian Eriksen has done a great career in Tottenham the last couple of years. But as a kid you just dream of being a football player. You don't really, as a kid I wanted to play in United, but when you start playing pro you don't really get to choose, like, is it going to be England or Spain, or it's very few players that can just choose from whatever, so you just sometimes get along with the options you have, and then suddenly I'm in Watford now, so it's that's how it is.
Because I didn't know you were actually a Manchester United fan growing up. So you made your debut for Watford at Old Trafford, and then obviously you've played against obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when he was manager in Norway, but obviously he's manager now at Manchester United. So you know him as well from his time in Norway and from your time in Norway. So how does it feel to make your debut at Old Trafford and to go up against an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer Manchester United team? That must have been incredible.
Yeah, it was special for sure. It was like, I signed, and then a few days after we had this game, and in the beginning I wasn't expecting to play, and then suddenly the coach told me to ask me if I wanted to play and if I felt ready, and then suddenly you're just starting to prepare for this game like any other game, and then you realize in the middle of the game, okay, this is Old Trafford and this is United. Even though they probably didn't bring the strongest team they could, it was still a quite crazy experience. But I don't know, I have that feeling even though it's Manchester United, it's not like old days. It's not like Giggs, Scholes, Ronaldo. If it were against them, I would probably be a bit more starstruck than the players they have today. No offense, but and I think also without fans, it was probably with fans it would have been more crazy, or it was a good experience.
Just on Denmark, because I looked into it a little bit, and the current Denmark manager. Didn't you know him from your time at, is it Nordsjælland? Is that how you say it? So there's a relationship there, and I think he spoke as well last year about how he's seen you play and he's impressed with how you play. Do you have aspirations for maybe the Euros or even the World Cup next winter of getting into that Denmark squad? Because obviously there's a lot of talent there, but do you see that as your future to hopefully break into that squad?
It's of course it's something I would love to play for Denmark, and especially at the Euros or the World Cups. I in the end I don't decide it, so I just try to do my best every day, and then I hope for a call up. I think there's a pretty okay chance in the next national break, but. As you said, I know the coach for my time in Nordsjælland, and we have a good relationship, but that doesn't mean that that I am selected. But I hope that now that I played a few games and hopefully I can play a few more games, that my chances are a bit better.
I was thinking about selecting yourself and that kind of thing. Do you play anything like FIFA or Football Manager away from the pitch, where you can, pick yourself and play with yourself online and hopefully get those international call-ups?
I'm sorry, I don't really do that.
Really?
Yeah, I stopped playing FIFA a few years ago. It took too much of my time. Simply, it's dangerous, and now I have a girlfriend as well, and I like it. I love to play PlayStation, but when I get into it, I just can't stop, and then it's too much. So
we're all the same.
Yeah, we're all the same, mate. We're all the same. To be fair, Philip, you've got a great card on FIFA. You got a team of the season last year, 82. Top was really good.
That's cool.
Yeah, the ratings are high. I just wanted to ask you, Philip, going back to Watford actually. You played in the last two games in like central areas, and when we brought you in, it was well documented that you were so good from the right, I believe, last season. Where do you see your best position? Is it out wide, or do you see it more centrally behind the striker?
Obviously, last season I played more on the right side, but we played kind of a very offensive system with three kind of attacking players, and I would normally start on the right, but I would often switch during the games and play a little bit in the left, playing a little bit in the middle. So I would say that one of the three front players, like either right or left wing or just behind the striker, is my best position. But I don't really care if it's in the right or on the left side, or if it's in the middle, I prefer to be a little bit higher and then maybe be behind the striker. That's probably my best position. But
do you change your game a lot depending on the position, or are you very much similar in terms of your style of play? Like, because I imagine if you're out wide, you're obviously making more crosses, but I guess if you're central, you kind of got into the pockets and stuff.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference. If I'm on central, I would try to find the pockets and set up the strikers. If I'm more wide, I would go for more crosses. But obviously, the last two games, I've played more as a number 8, and then you have a bit more defensive work and a bit more running backwards. That I've had to do, and it's been fine actually. I also like to play there. I've played there a bit before in my old club as well. We also had 2 8s, so it's not very new for me to play in the middle. But I prefer to be a little bit more involved in the offensive play. But if the number 8 is the position right now, then I'm happy to take it. So.
Elliot, you've been at a couple of games recently, haven't you? You picked up on Philip's Workrate. Do you want to maybe elaborate on that? Because, considering you're playing slightly out of position, his stamina, his Workrate and his energy is something that we've all picked up on.
Yeah, it was because we've obviously been told that you're a winger or you play behind the striker. So then seeing you in central midfield, I was surprised by how good you were defensively, and in the defensive third, you put in a lot of tackles and you won the ball a lot, and then also you then turned into a winger after that in terms of when you got the ball, you would then play it forward and you'd bring the ball forward. Where did you sort of learn that? Was that at Bodø Glimt as an 8, or was that something you've sort of picked up in practice?
In my time in Denmark, in my last club in Denmark before I came to Norway, I had very defensive coach that tried to turn me from a number 10 into a number 8. So I had a period of maybe 6 months where he tried to learn me more defensive stuff and make me more as a number 8. And then in the end, I was so tired of it that I wanted to leave. And then that's one of the reasons I came to Norway and to Bodø. And then in Bodø, I played my first season a lot as number 8, but it's much more offensive there. Because of the game, the way we play in Bodø, we have the ball all the time. So we would play very risky, play very offensive, and then we would have a very high repressure. So we would often win the ball back high in the pitch. So that's why I'm pretty good at winning the balls like stealing the balls, because we had a lot of high intense pressure in my old club, a bit like German Red Bull style kind of pressing. Our coaches were inspired by Liverpool and that type of football. So obviously I've put a little bit more energy on the defensive part these last 2 games because of the job I was given. But yeah, it's just something you need to do in Championship, I guess.
Sam, what's particularly impressed you about Philip in the couple of games we've seen him so far? Is any aspects of his game that you've picked up on?
I think for me, obviously it took a while for you to kind of break into that starting 11, but you've seemingly kind of just fitted perfectly into that side, because we kind of saw Tom Cleverley, Nathaniel Chalobah, Will Hughes, all 3 of them were doing a really good job in the middle. And, when Cleverley and Chalobah, they've been out in the last couple of games, we kind of thought, do you know what, this could be a problem. But you and also João Pedro the other day just seemed to fit in really well and did that job perfectly. So, I mean, would you say like you're playing to your absolute best at the moment as well, or do you think that there's more to come from you?
Not at all. I think there's much more to come. I feel it's in the first game against Wycombe, is that the name?
Wickham.
I felt that I was able to find a little bit more offensive pockets and set up the play, while against Forest it was more defensive. So there's for sure much more to come in finding the areas, but also for my teammates to learn to play into these areas that I think we don't really use that often. So I think like you can play a number 8 a little bit more as a number 10, especially when Cleverley in the first game could be a little bit more deep, and then you would have Will at 6. While last game with João, I obviously had to be a little bit more defensive and tactical in my positioning, so that we weren't too risky. Because obviously it's 2 very offensive players suddenly playing in the midfield, and you need to hold back a little bit on the offensive part.
Before we move on to kind of the last part of the interview, I mean, I'm just wondering as well, just more about your free time. I know we mentioned FIFA and a bit about your interest in fashion, but there's Elliot, I think, do you have the quote of you being quite into your Netflix series?
Well, what I saw was I think your teammate Kasper Juncker said that back when you were living with him, he wouldn't get to watch anything on Netflix. He wouldn't get to watch any shows because you were constantly watching football. So are you more of a sitting and watching football matches kind of guy, or do you like Netflix as well? Are you watching that sort of thing?
I like both, to be fair. Now that I'm living with my girlfriend, she gets to choose a little bit as well. When I'm alone, I can watch easily football all day. Just English, Italian, Spanish. I love to watch football, but it's not like a thing I have to do. It's just if it's on television, I would watch it. But when I'm with my girlfriend, I don't miss watching it. It's just like, I find it just relaxing to stay on the couch and watch football. But Juncker is also the guy that loves to play PlayStation all day. So that's also one of the reasons he wouldn't come out and watch Netflix, because he would stay in his room and play PlayStation all day.
Well, you mentioned Netflix there, Philip. Music. Are you big on your music? We had Daniel Backman on last week, and he said Troy's in charge of the tune. Sometimes he's on it. Are you big into your music?
I think like anyone else. Love to listen to music, but I'm not a fanatic about it.
Okay.
But I quite like dance music. Actually,
Nice.
He has a quite good playlist. So when Dan is on the tubes, it's quite okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, you mentioned dance there. Have you got any celebrations that we can look forward to? You scored the other week when Sar set you up. Have you got a celebration at all, or you just kind of go with the flow?
I guess I'm going with the flow, but it's different when you score without fans. There's just something slightly, it's not as emotional. Like when you score in front of fans, you get kind of more adrenaline, and then suddenly you feel doing something crazy. But last season we scored so many goals as well, so in the end it's just got boring because you scored.
I'll tell you what, Philip. I mean, I've got a feeling we're going to see more goals from you. So could we give you a goal celebration next time you score? Just go up to the camera, do that for PZ7. Just put 7 fingers up for PZ7.
That's fine.
Yes, love it, Philip. Love it.
Love
Top man. I'll tell you what, before we get on to the quickfire questions, Philip, I've got to ask you this, right? We saw on the cycling GK, Ben Foster, right? I think it was the Swansea game, the initiation song. Tell me what was going through your head there. What was happening, mate?
It's never funny. It's never funny. It's only funny for the one who watches, because it's something like every footballer has to do, and then you feel comfortable, but the moment you step on the chair, it's just terrible. It's just like I don't even think. I remember Fuzzy told me that even he thinks it's terrible when he goes up there, and he's a showman. So you can probably in the room just before you can sing the whole song and everything is fine, but when you get up there, you just it's like blackout. It's terrible. I wouldn't recommend it for anyone.
What song did you go for in the end? I can't really remember which one it was.
I went for what song was it?
You put the AirPods in, didn't you? You put the AirPods in to block the noise out. Yeah.
But didn't really work. So I don't remember the song. I had to ask some of my friends, like, give me a song, please, because you can never choose because there's so many songs to choose from. So what song was it? I don't remember actually. Bad song.
I'll tell you what, Philip, we don't want to take too much of your time up, mate. We've got 10 quickfire questions, if that's okay with you. Really random, just to get to know you a little bit better. The first one is actually, what is your favourite Netflix series or show?
I was supposed to be quick.
It's like the music, just so much to choose from.
Yeah, and especially now in COVID, it's unbelievable. You watch everything. Mindhunter.
Nice. Good shout.
Did you ever watch The Killing? Because
not yet, but I've heard it's very nice. I really enjoyed The Killing. Okay, lovely. I also love the Unabomber Manhunt. It's a bit similar to Mindhunter. Very nice. But maybe I'll watch The Killing.
Top man. Who was your biggest hero growing up, but non-football related? You mentioned Ronaldo, but non-football. Who was your hero growing up?
And I can't say Beckham, even though after he retired. I don't know, biggest hero, non-football related. Quite a big fan of James Bond when I was a kid.
Nice.
Something very, very stylish about him.
The best football player of all time for you?
Messi.
Good choice.
Yeah. There's so many good players, but he's just on a different level.
I'd say you're close. I'd say you're close to his level. I'd say it goes Messi, then Philip Zinckernagel, just underneath that.
He's not human. He's crazy. I think Ronaldo is. I was a big Ronaldo fan for many years, especially as a kid. But Messi is just incredible.
Yeah. Have you got any pre-match rituals, Philip?
I don't really have any rituals, but as I mentioned before and earlier, that I work with a mental coach. I do use a lot of time on meditation, and like this whole part of football, which is all about breathing and concentration, which basically is meditation. So I always meditate before a game, but it's not really a ritual because I do it every day. So I do it. That's the only thing I need to do before a game. It's meditate for 10 minutes.
Nice. We did a bit of research on you, and apparently you're a big coffee lover. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
What is your go-to coffee? If you go to the coffee shop, what are you getting?
Well, it's a bit difficult because everywhere you go, coffee is very different. And, you could have a cortado in England and it would be very different than going to Italy and have a cortado. So you need to know your country first. But I would usually go for either espresso macchiato.
Nice.
Or a cortado. But I don't like the places that makes a cortado very big because then they misunderstood the whole point of a cortado. But in Denmark, I would go for a cortado or espresso macchiato.
Nice. And on that note, tell us something about yourself that Watford fans don't know about you.
As I told you about fashion, I grew up with my uncle owning a fashion brand that recently opened in London. Actually, it's called Woodwood. Nice. They have a shop in Soho, and it's very cool. And when it opens up again, I can definitely recommend to everyone to have a look. It's a very cool shop.
I'm just wondering what you were like at school growing up, because you mentioned how, like everything in your life was football, Man United, Ronaldo, Beckham. But, what were you like at school? Were you like focused? Did you work hard, or was it just get me out on the pitch?
Didn't really like school, to be fair. Always been quite creative, and as a kid, I couldn't sit down for more than 1 hour. So I just I didn't really like school. I liked it, but I just couldn't find the concentration for more than a few hours. So it was, to be fair, as a kid, it was all about getting rid of just being finished with school and then go to training. Just sitting still is not my. It's not my. It's better now, but as a kid, it was a bit difficult.
I'll tell you what, Philip. Just to wrap up, bit of a difficult on this. Describe yourself in 3 words. Difficult.
That's very difficult. 3 words. Does it have to be something that describes me, or can it be 3 words that, like, could it be coffee, for example? Could that be one word?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Ahead,
yeah. Well, then I have to go for fashion, coffee, football.
Oh, big. Philip, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to us. I hope you enjoyed it, by the way. But thank you so much, and we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season, mate.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. All the best.